How's it going, everybody? Daner here with North Central Coins, and welcome back to another exciting episode of the most rare and valuable coins in Canada. In today's video, we're diving into a special list of Canadian commemorative coins. These are the ones that stand out not just for their unique designs, but also for the serious value that they can carry. In this video, we're going to discuss rare airs, low mintages, unappreciated modern issues, and even a few holy grails that collectors are always on the lookout for. From iconic one-time releases to coins that quietly skyrocketed in value, these pieces span multiple denominations and celebrate all kinds of Canadian history. And the great part about it is some of them will actually show up in your pocket change, rolls of coins, old collections, or even tucked away as family heirlooms. But the one thing that they all have in common is that they are worth a lot more than face value. Whether you're just starting out in your coin collecting journey or you've been hunting rolls for years, this video is just packed with commemorative treasures that could seriously level up your collection. Before we do get into this, I would really appreciate if you guys would smash that thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and also ring that bell notification so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos or content. And be sure to stick around until the end of the video so you can see some of the most valuable and sought after commemorative coins ever released in Canada. And then without any further ado, what do you say we get right into it? These are Canada's most valuable commemorative coins. Let's get it, guys. In the 1950s, a comprehensive study was conducted to evaluate the operational efficiency and infrastructure of the Canadian Mint, which had suffered physical deterioration in the aftermath of World War II. The Mint's facilities were found to be overcrowded and outdated and unable to meet the increased demand for coin production. As a result, significant modernization efforts were initiated. To address the pressing needs for improvement, new cutting-edge machinery was introduced while existing equipment underwent enhancements to boost productivity and efficiency. Also, the physical space of the Mint was expanded to accommodate the upgraded machinery and streamline operations. The surge in demand for Canadian coins, which had previously been attributed to post-war circumstances, was now recognized as a sustained trend and needed a recalibration of the production norms. Orders for coinage had consistently exceeded 100 million pieces annually over a 12-year period, indicating a permanent shift in the landscape of Canadian circulation coins. Amidst these developments, a decision was made to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the discovery and naming of the element nickel by Swedish chemist A.F. Cronstedt. Given Canada's pivotal role as a leading global nickel producer during World War II, a special circulating 5-cent coin was commissioned to honor this milestone. An extensive competition yielded a design by Stephen Trenka featuring a depiction of a nickel refinery in Sudbury, which was unveiled at the Canadian Mint in December 1950. Stephen Trenka, an accomplished designer hailing from Thornhill, Ontario, had previously gained recognition for his work, including the design of the 1958 British Columbia silver dollar. Born in Budapest, Trenka pursued his artistic education at the Royal School of Design before immigrating to Canada in 1929 and furthering his studies at the Ontario College of Art. The culmination of these efforts was the creation of the Big Nickel, a colossal 9-meter replica of the 1951 commemorative Canadian nickel. Situated at the Dynamic Earth Science Museum in Greater Sudbury, Ontario, the Big Nickel stands as the largest representation of a coin globally. Its inception was the brainchild of Ted Silva, a visionary fireman who envisioned a major tourist attraction celebrating Sudbury's centennial. Despite initial rejection by the Sudbury Canada Centennial Committee, Silva's persistence led to the realization of his ambitious concept, which eventually led to the construction of the iconic Big Nickel. The legacy of the Big Nickel endured beyond its physical presence, as it inspired a range of tokens and medals sold at the Canadian Centennial Numismatic Park from 1964 to 1982. Visitors to the park had the opportunity to acquire souvenirs commemorating this iconic landmark. So now that I have given you guys some context and information into the 1951 commemorative Canadian nickels, what do you say that we get into the coin that you are all here to find out about? The half moon variety of the 1951 Canadian commemorative nickel refers to a distinctive die clash found on some examples of this coin. Die clashes occur when the dies used to strike the coin come into contact without a planchette in between, leaving an impression of the design elements from one die onto the other. In the case of the half moon variety 1951 commemorative nickel, a small die clash resembling a half or crescent moon can be observed underneath the final digit of 1 in the double date of 1751 to 1951. This small crescent moon-shaped die clash is typically found to the left of the smokestack on the reverse design of the coin, and it may actually be in contact with the smokestack. Now, identifying the half moon variety involves careful examination of the area around the final digit of the year on the reverse side of the coin. The die clash manifests as a raised crescent-shaped mark, often with some detail resembling the shape of a moon, and may appear slightly flattened due to the pressure of the die clash. Now, the causes of these die clashes can vary, but they commonly occur when the dies come into contact during the minting process without a blank planchette between them. This can happen due to improper alignment or pressure adjustments during the coin striking. When the dies collide, they leave behind impressions of design elements on the opposing die, which results in these clash marks on the subsequent coins struck by these dies. The half moon variety is considered a minor error or variety, adding a unique characteristic to certain examples of these 1951 Canadian commemorative nickels. Collectors often find such varieties intriguing and seek them out as part of their numismatic pursuits. The presence of these die clashes can greatly affect the value of these coins, especially if they are well-defined and well-preserved examples. Now, before we get into the values for the 1951 commemorative nickels, first some of the details and specifications. The 1951 commemorative has an overall mintage of 8,239,321. It should have a weight of 4.54 grams, a diameter of 21.3 millimeters. Its die axis should be in metal alignment, as is the standard for most Canadian coins. The coin was designed and engraved by Thomas Humphrey Paget for the obverse and Stephen Trenka for the reverse commemorative design. Now, one of the great things about this nickel variety is that they made quite a few of the 1951 commemorative nickels with a mintage figure just above 8 million. There is far more of these than the standard beaver design 1951 nickels. Those are actually quite rare as well, and there is an extremely rare variety you can look for on those. But PCGS does attribute this error if you do happen to find one and send it in to be graded at a company like PCGS or ICCS. This is an error or variety that you can get attributed and can add a value to your coin. Now, it doesn't have a ton of value on the low end. It can be worth around $1 for a VF20, which isn't at the absolute bottom of the Sheldon scale, but it is a really beat up and worn example. So $1 isn't too bad for a coin that you only pay 5 cents for if you happen to find one of these in your pocket change or coin roll hunting. Now, as we start to get into the mint state range, you will see some massive price jumps. Just to give you guys an idea for comparison, the regular 1951 commemorative without any errors or varieties can be worth around $22 for an MS64. If you can identify the half moon variety on the 1951 commemorative, it can be worth around $125 for an MS64. Now, that is currently the highest graded listed example for this coin, but just to give you guys an idea, the 1951 regular commemorative strike is worth around $200 for an MS66. So if you extrapolate and work upwards through the grading tiers, I estimate that you could get anywhere from $500 to $1,000 easily for one of these if you found one and it scored an MS66 or MS67. Now, I have actually found 2 full rolls of these 1951 commemoratives in one of my coin roll hunts. It was one of the most epic hunts of my coin roll hunting career, and I made sure to check all of them for the half moon variety, and to be honest, there was not a single one in there. But the good news about that is that there is quite a few of these 1951s floating around. You just have to keep your eyes open, and you may even be able to find one in your pocket change if you are lucky. And if you can identify the half moon variety, you can make yourself some pretty decent money. The Canadian 2002 toonies, featuring the unique date inscription of 1952 to 2002, hold a special significance in the realm of Canadian numismatics. These coins were released to commemorate Queen Elizabeth II's Golden Jubilee, and these coins symbolize a milestone in Canadian coinage history. The obverse side of the toonie depicts the effigy of Queen Elizabeth II, while the reverse side features the iconic image of the polar bear. The introduction of the bimetallic toonie in 1996 revolutionized the country's currency, providing enhanced durability and security features. The $2 coin, with its distinctive outer ring and inner core, quickly gained popularity among Canadians and collectors alike. The 2002 toonies are part of a broader series of Canadian coins minted that year, each carrying its own significance and design elements. From the double-dated penny all the way to the uniquely designed commemorative 50-cent pieces, these Canadian 2002 coins reflect the country's rich cultural heritage and diverse landscapes. One interesting fact about the Canadian toonie is its nickname, which derives from a combination of two and loony. The term loony refers to the $1 coin featuring a common loon design on its reverse side. When the bimetallic $2 coin was introduced, Canadians naturally dubbed it the toonie, emphasizing its double denomination. This unique naming tradition adds a touch of whimsy to the Canadian coinage system, further enhancing its charm and appeal to collectors worldwide. The dot and H variety for the 2002 toonie is a fascinating heir that adds a layer of intrigue to this already collectible coin. This heir manifests as a small dot, likely a die chip, situated in the bottom half of the letter H in the word Elizabeth, on the obverse side of the coin. Located beneath the center line of the H and nestled between the two side lines that form the letter, the dot and H heir is a subtle yet distinctive characteristic that sets certain specimens apart from the standard circulation coins. Identifying the dot and H variety requires a keen eye for detail. Numismatists and collectors often scrutinize the lettering on the obverse of the coin, paying particular attention to the word Elizabeth. Upon close inspection, the presence of a small dot between the center line of the H should be apparent. While some variations in the strike or surface imperfections may resemble this heir, the distinct placement and size of the dot help distinguish genuine dot and H varieties from other mint anomalies. The origin of the dot and H heir can most likely be attributed to the coin die used in the minting process. Die chips, which are small pieces of metal that break away from the surface of the die, can inadvertently transfer onto the coins during striking. In the case of the dot and H variety, a tiny chip likely formed on the die used to stamp the lettering onto the coin, resulting in the formation of this distinctive dot. Factors such as wear and tear on the die, improper maintenance, or defects in the manufacturing process could contribute to the development of die chips and consequently errors like the dot and H 2002 toonie. Despite its relatively subtle nature, the dot and H heir holds significant appeal among collectors due to its rarity and uniqueness. Coins exhibiting this variety command attention and often fetch much higher prices in the numismatic market. The quest to acquire such elusive specimens drives collectors to carefully examine their coins and search for these distinctive heirs. As a result, this 2002 dot and H variety adds an element of excitement and discovery into the world of Canadian coin roll hunting, especially when it comes to toonies, and highlights the intriguing intersection of artistry, craftsmanship, and the chance of anomalies occurring during the minting process. Now, before we get into the values for the 2002 toonies, first let's go over some of the specifications. If any of these are off, it may indicate that it is not a legitimate example. I'm not too sure about the 2002 toonies, but I know that there are 1996 counterfeit toonies. There are also 2000 knowledge counterfeits, and 2005 and 2006 are very common years for counterfeit toonies. Now, the counterfeiters would have had to make a separate obverse die for this 2002 toonie because it does have the double date of 1952 to 2002, but in the case of the 2000 knowledge toonie, there are counterfeit examples of that coin, so it didn't stop them having to make a different reverse design. So very well, there could be some counterfeit examples of these 2002 toonies floating around. And if you happen to find one of those, it doesn't matter if it has die chips or not, it is pretty much worthless. So the overall mintage figure for the 2002 toonie is 27,008,000. The coin is composed of an outer ring of 100% nickel and an inner core of 92% copper, 6% aluminum, and 2% nickel. It has a weight of 7.3 grams, a diameter of 28 millimeters, and a thickness of 1.8 millimeters. The coin was designed and engraved by Dora DePatry Hunt and Ago Arand for the obverse and Brent Townsend and Ago Arand for the reverse. The edge of the coin is serrated and it has a diaxis in metal alignment, as is the standard for most Canadian, British, and Australian coins. Now, as I've mentioned in several of my other videos, unfortunately there aren't a whole lot of Canadian loonies and toonies that are worth too much above their face value. And usually if you find any of the Canadian $1 or $2 coins and they're pretty beat up and not in the greatest shape, you are not going to be able to get a whole lot more money for them than they are actually worth. Now, in the case of the 2002 commemorative toonie, the most amount of money that you could get for that coin is $72 for an MS66. Now that is for the regular 2002 double dated toonie without any errors or varieties. Now, if you can identify the dot, which means you have to flip over to the obverse and look for a small dot or die chip located in the center bottom of the H in Elizabeth, then it can add a pretty large premium to the coin and makes it about twice to 3 times as valuable as the regular issue. So it can be worth around $20 to $25 for an MS64 example, around $120 for an MS66, and if you were able to find one and it got the MS67 or higher, you could easily be talking a $500 to $1,000 toonie. This is a fairly modern piece, so if you are coin roll hunting toonies or checking your pocket change, there is a good chance that you might be able to find one of these 2002 toonies, and it is still in pretty decent shape. But if you want to be able to get the most amount of money for a 2002 dot and H toonie, you want it to be in an exceptional grade, and the best chance of finding one of the toonies that scores in the high MS range is going to be out of an uncirculated roll. Now, being released in the year 2002, these coins are now 22 years old as I am making this video, but in the world of coin collecting, that is a mere blink of an eye, and you can actually find these rolls on Canadian coin sites like Coins Unlimited and Colonial Acres for a pretty decent price. And if you happen to buy one of the rolls, bust it open, and can identify one of these die chips, which is definitely possible, a lot of the time when you are looking for errors or varieties like the 1964 extra waterline nickel, usually if you are busting open an uncirculated roll, either all of the coins will have the error or variety or none of them will. But when it comes to a more minor error or variety like the dot and H, which is a die chip, there is a chance that a few of these toonies could have made their way into the roll, and if you can identify the die chip for the dot and H variety, and even a few of the toonies have them and they are in really good shape, you can turn a massive profit. In April of 1998, the Canadian Mint initiated the Millennium Coin Design Contest, inviting Canadians from all walks of life to contribute their creative visions to a set of 24 commemorative quarters symbolizing each month for the years 1999 and 2000. This ambitious contest aimed to encapsulate Canada's rich heritage and aspirations for the future through numismatic artistry. The designs for the 1999 quarters were intended to reflect upon the nation's past, while those for the year 2000 were oriented towards envisioning its future. Notably, the 1999 coins were inscribed with their retrospective month of issue, whereas the 2000 coins bore thematic labels representative of their themes. To culminate the turn of the millennium, the Canadian Mint issued this distinctive series of 12 commemorative 25-cent coins for circulation, additionally releasing them in different sets, some struck with a frosted cameo proof in sterling silver. These coins were encased within an elegant oval display case, and each coin in this special set embodies a significant aspect of Canada's illustrious history. The 1999 Millennium Quarter series unfolds a narrative of Canada's diverse cultural tapestry and storied past through 12 evocative designs. From A Country unfolds in January to This Is Canada in December, each month's quarter portrays a distinctive facet of the nation's identity. These coins serve not only as numismatic treasures, but also as reminders of the collective experiences and aspirations that define the Canadian spirit. At some point during the inception of production for the 1999 September 25-cent coins, an unanticipated twist emerged, and that was the utilization of the obverse die that was designated for the regular Caribou 25-cent coins. This departure from the norm instigated the creation of a series of rare Mule coins that would captivate collectors and enthusiasts alike. Amidst the creation process, a select number of these unconventional coins that are dubbed mules found their way into circulation. However, the primary destination for these mule coins was within uncirculated coin sets. It is speculated that certain Mule coins might have ventured beyond the confines of these sets, potentially entering the hands of unsuspecting members of the public. This dispersion only adds to the intrigue surrounding these rare and elusive coins. Now, there were a few different sets released in 1999 to commemorate this Millennium series of quarters. There was one released in sterling silver, and then there was one released in just a base cardboard holder, and the coins are not anything special. They're basically just considered brilliant uncirculated, and there's really no way to tell them apart from their standard circulation counterparts. Now, for anyone seeking to discern whether they possess one of these rare Mule coins, there exists telltale signs that set them apart. The most notable clue is that these Mule coins do not feature the usual 25 cents written on the obverse of the Millennium series coins. Now, if you are to find one of these Mule coins, your best chances is going to be to pull it from one of the sets issued in the same year. After the year 1977, Canadian numismatists refer to coins pulled out of these sets as NBU, or newly brilliant uncirculated specimens. NBU simply means that the coins were freshly minted and handled with extra care and then placed into these sets, which preserves their pristine condition straight from the mint, but there is nothing that sets them apart from the standard circulation counterparts. But it would seem when it comes to a lot of these Holy Grail Mule coins that your best chances of finding them is to pull them out of the sets. And in the case of the 1999 Millennium sets, you want to look for the oval cardboard set that contains the Millennium series quarters. Now, just because these coins typically originate from mint sets doesn't mean that you can't ever stumble upon one in the wild. There is a small possibility that you could find one of these rare mules mixed in with standard business strikes. Now, how does that happen? Well, mint sets are often opened by collectors eager to examine their contents. Also, sometimes when coin collectors are strapped for cash, they will take their less valuable sets and crack them open and cash them in for face value. And one thing that I can personally attest, which is pretty sad, is I got the 1999 and 2000 Millennium sets when I was a kid. I was only 9 and 10 years old when these sets were released, and at some point when I was 14 or 15 years old, I cashed them in probably to buy some sandwiches or food from the corner store. Now, you would be amazed at the crazy NIFC coins that you can find if you are coin roll hunting, or if you search your pocket change. I have found some that have mintage figures as low as 20,000 and can be worth up to $150. And of all the different coin sets released by the Canadian Mint in the last 100 some odd years, this one has probably been cracked open and spent for their face value the most of just about any other coin series. Now, in terms of this coin's value, I do have some price estimates for you guys, and it is much more valuable than the regular issue 1999 September Millennium Series quarter. If you were to find a regular issue 1999 September Series Millennium quarter, the most that you could get for it is $25 for an NBU 67. If it scored any higher, you might be able to get a little bit more, maybe $50 to $100 if somebody really wants the coin. Now, the September Mule is another Canadian coin that is extremely rare. There's probably only 100 to 1,000 examples of this coin that exist, and its value does not necessarily represent its rarity. If you were able to find one of these in the wild, it would definitely be a pretty profitable find. Now, the price estimates kick in at NBU 64 for $129, and if you were able to find one of these out of a roll or a proof set and it is in pristine condition, it can be worth around $300 for an NBU 67. So if it scored any higher, you could easily be talking $1,000 coin. And this is another extremely rare Canadian coin that I believe has some pretty low price estimates, and the potential for its value to increase will only go up as more awareness is drawn to it. Now, once again, just to quickly clarify, if you want to identify this rare Mule coin on the 1999 September Millennium Series quarter, all you need to do is flip over to the obverse of the coin, and if it is missing the wording for 25 cents, then it has the obverse that was intended for the Caribou quarters, and you have yourself the Mule coin. You might as well check every single Millennium quarter that you find, because you never know when you might find a one-of-a-kind coin that could be worth some insane money. The life of Oscar Emmanuel Peterson spanned from August 15th, 1925 to December 23rd, 2007. He was a Canadian jazz pianist and composer, renowned as one of the greatest jazz pianists of all time. Over a career spanning more than 6 decades, Peterson released over 200 recordings, garnered 8 Grammy Awards, including a Lifetime Achievement Award, and received numerous other accolades. Known as a virtuoso of his time who presented inventive improvisations, Peterson was dubbed the Maharaja of the keyboard by Duke Ellington. His extensive body of work and global performances solidified his reputation in the jazz community and beyond. Peterson's collaborations were numerous and varied, often working in duos and trios with notable musicians such as Ray Brown, Herb Ellis, and Joe Pass. His early trio, featuring Brown and Ellis, was particularly celebrated for its cohesiveness and musical synergy. Peterson's ability to adapt and thrive in different ensemble settings highlighted his versatility. Notably, his trio's recording On the Town with Oscar Peterson Trio, captured live in Toronto, is praised for its emotional and musical depth. Born in Montreal to West Indian immigrants, Peterson grew up in the Little Burgundy neighborhood, a hub for Montreal's Black community and its vibrant jazz scene. Initially trained on both trumpet and piano, a bout of tuberculosis shifted his focus solely to the piano. His classical training under Paul DeMarchi shaped his unique style that blended classical precision with jazz improvisation. By his teens, Peterson was already a professional musician, performing on radio with the Johnny Holmes Orchestra. Peterson's later years were marked by several health challenges, including arthritis and a stroke that limited his left hand's mobility. Despite these setbacks, he continued to perform and record, mentoring younger musicians and contributing to jazz education. His legacy includes a profound influence on subsequent generations of jazz pianists, with protégés like Benny Green carrying forward his techniques and musical philosophies. Peterson's impact on jazz remains enduring, celebrated through numerous awards, honors, and also a 2021 documentary, Oscar Peterson, Black and White, which was premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival. The Canadian $1 Oscar Peterson Loonies, released in the year 2022, have captured significant interest among collectors and numismatists. Designed by Canadian artist Valentine Delandro, these coins honor the legendary legacy of Oscar Peterson, emphasizing his monumental contributions to both music and civil rights in Canada. The reverse of the coin features a depiction of Oscar Peterson at his piano playing his iconic song, The Hymn to Freedom, surrounded by musical notes and chord symbols from the piece, symbolizing his musical legacy and advocacy for equality. The colored version of this coin, which highlights Peterson's favorite color, purple, is particularly noteworthy. This choice of color adds a vibrant touch that conveys the joy and love of music evident in Peterson's performances. The use of purple not only enhances the aesthetic appeal of the coin, but also adds a layer of personal connection to Peterson, making it a more intimate tribute. The obverse of the coin features the effigy of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, which was designed by Susanna Blunt, maintaining the tradition aspect of Canadian coinage. The Oscar Peterson Loonies, particularly the purple-colored version, has significant market potential and are poised to become valuable collector's items. There are several factors that contribute to their importance and their potential to increase in value. First, the cultural and historical significance. Oscar Peterson is celebrated as one of the greatest jazz pianists and composers in history, not only in Canada but the entire world, and his influence extends beyond music into civil rights. This coin serves as a tribute to his artistic and cultural impact, making it a valuable piece of Canadian history. Its unique design and coloration. The selective use of color, particularly purple, sets this coin apart from other modern and colored Canadian loonies. The vibrant design captures Peterson's spirit and adds a unique visual appeal that is likely to attract collectors. Its limited mintage. Coins with unique designs and limited mintages often see increased demand among collectors. Numismatic appeal. The coin's intricate design by a notable artist, combined with the historical and cultural significance of Peterson's legacy, enhances its numismatic appeal. Collectors often seek coins with strong stories and connections to notable figures. Future market potential. As interest in cultural and historical commemoratives grow, coins like the Oscar Peterson Looney are likely to appreciate in value. The combination of its unique design, cultural significance, and its scarcity, with only 2 million of the colored examples being struck, it makes these coins promising investments for any collector. Now, it is super important to note that there were 1 million of the non-colored versions of these Oscar Peterson Looney struck and 2 million of the colors. But even though there were 1 million more of the colored versions struck, I believe that they were a lot more desirable and there are a lot less high-grade examples of them out there, which is what drives up the value. The 2022 Canadian $1 Oscar Peterson coins, particularly the colored version, holds significant importance due to the celebration of Peterson's legacy, their unique design, and also the potential for future value increase. Their appeal to collectors is enhanced by their cultural and historical significance, making them valuable additions to any numismatic collection. Now, what do you say we get into the values for these 2022 Oscar Peterson loonies? Now, as I mentioned before, the mintage for the non-colored version is 1 million and the mintage for the colored version of this coin is 2 million, but believe it or not, the colored version is actually more valuable even though there are a million more of them made. Now, just to give you guys an idea in price comparison, both the regular 2022 Loon design and also the 2022 Oscar Peterson non-colored both have the same price evaluations. They can both be worth around $2.90 for an MS63 and around $90 for an MS67 example. Now, just to give you guys an idea in comparison, the Oscar Peterson colored is actually worth $3.90 for an MS63, so that is a $1 price increase for the same grade, and the maximum price that you can get currently for the 2022 Oscar Peterson colored is $130 for an MS67. Now, that is a relatively high grade for Canadian coins. It is a 70-point system, so it can score a little bit higher if it is in exceptional condition, but even for it to hit that MS67 mark, it has to be pretty much flawless. But that is still a pretty good profit if you're able to find an uncirculated roll of these 2022 Oscar Peterson loonies. I believe that if you find a business or circulation roll, they will come mixed in the roll. There will be a mix of both the coloreds and the non-coloreds. So if you do find one, you may just want to hold on to the roll, or you could bust it open and send a few in to be graded and hope that they get that MS67 or higher mark, and you may have just hit the jackpot. In the year 1999, to commemorate the establishment of Nunavut, Canada's newest territory, the Canadian government commissioned a special design for the toonie. Renowned First Nations artist Germain Arnon-Tayok was selected to create this unique design, infusing it with cultural significance and symbolism reflective of Nunavut's heritage. Arnon-Tayok's artistic vision brought to life the essence of Nunavut's founding, celebrating its indigenous culture and the resilience of its people. This commemorative design graced all 1999 $2 coins intended for general circulation, becoming an emblem of Nunavut's identity and historical significance. Depicting motifs inspired by Inuit art tradition, such as Arctic wildlife and cultural symbols, the coin serves as a tangible representation of Nunavut's rich cultural heritage. This special edition of the toonie held immense significance for Canadians nationwide, marking a milestone in the country's history and recognizing the importance of Indigenous voices and narratives. I actually remember when they first released this commemorative Nunavut toonie. I was only 9 years old at the time, and it was probably the first commemorative coin that I ever found in my pocket change, and even I didn't know back then that decades later these coins would hold such significance in my own life. It's important to note that in 1999, the iconic polar bear design typically featured on Canadian $2 coins was only available in limited quantities within special coin sets tailored for the collector market. These sets were designed to appeal to numismatists and collectors and offered a unique opportunity to acquire a piece of Canadian history and culture. In the fascinating realm of Canadian numismatics, a remarkable tale unfolds with the 1999 Nunavut Mule toonie, an era coin that captivates collectors with its unique characteristics and also historical significance. During the minting process of the Nunavut $2 coins, an unusual mishap occurred when the reverse die designated for the striking of proof silver coins was mistakenly employed to produce a portion of regular circulation coins. This unintentional blending of minting processes resulted in the creation of a select number of Nunavut Mule toonies, adding to this intriguing chapter in the denomination's history. Identifying these elusive mule coins requires a keen eye and an understanding of their distinguishing features. Unlike their standard circulation counterparts, Nunavut Mule toonies lack the raised ring around the inner core on the reverse side of the coin. This anomaly is particularly noteworthy given that the Nunavut toonies were struck in both base metals for circulation and precious metals for collectors, with variations in the reverse design. By examining the reverse of the coin closely, you can discern the absence of the raised rim where the ring and insert meet, indicating the coin's status as the Mule variant. Now, the overall mintage for the Canadian 1999 Nunavut toonie is 25,130,000. Let's take a little look into some of the technical specifications into the coin. It was crafted with an outer ring made of 100% nickel and a core comprising of 92% copper, 6% aluminum, and 2% nickel. It has a weight of 7.3 grams and a diameter of 28 millimeters. The edge of the coin is serrated, which adds to its visual appeal and tactile experience, while the engraved designs on both the obverse and reverse sides showcase the artistic talents of renowned artists Dora DePatrie Hunt, Germain Arnott-Tayuk, and Jose Azio. With an estimated production of approximately 3,000 Mule coins, the Nunavut Mule toonie stands as a rare and coveted treasure within the realm of Canadian numismatics. Its unique status as a handsome mule, coupled with its association within the founding of Nunavut, Canada's newest territory, adds layers of historical significance and cultural resonance. As collectors and enthusiasts alike marvel at these intriguing specimens, each Nunavut Mule toonie serves as a tangible testament to the intricacies and occasional surprises found within the world of coin minting. Now, once again, to identify this coin, Nunavut Mule toonies lack the raised ring around the inner core on the reverse side of the coin. By examining the reverse side closely, you can discern the absence of the raised rim where the ring and the insert meet, which will indicate its status as the Mule variant. So what do you say we discuss some of the values for the 1999 Nunavut toonies? Now, the regular base price for the 1999 Polar Bear out of the proof set, now this is not actually a proof strike, it is just simply a uncirculated set, is worth around $35 for the Polar Bear. That is the more valuable of the regular issues. And then there is the regular issue 1999 Nunavut without any errors or varieties. This is worth around $25 maximum, which isn't too bad. If you're able to score one of these sets for a pretty reasonable price, around $20, and the coins are in impeccable condition, you can still turn a little profit if you send it in to be graded. But then we have the Holy Grail, the Nunavut Mule toonie, which is quite a bit more valuable than the other two, if I do say so myself. Now, the price estimates kick in for this coin at NBU 64. So it is not a proof-like strike or a proof strike. It is just a business strike that contains this Mule air. For an NBU 64, it can be worth around $245. For a 66, it can be worth $318. And for an uncirculated 67, it can be worth around $537. If it did score any higher, a 68 or 69, you could easily be talking a $1,000 coin or more. Now, just to clarify quickly, in the realm of Canadian numismatics, coin sets play a pivotal role in commemorating significant events and celebrating our nation's rich heritage. One notable category within these sets is the NBU or Brilliant Uncirculated coins. These coins, while not intended for circulation, are struck with the same composition as those produced for general circulation. The only difference is that they are basically packaged meticulously by the mint, but the actual strikes or finishes on these coins are no different than the standard circulation issues. From the moment of their minting, brilliant uncirculated set coins are carefully preserved in protective envelopes or the original packaging, which safeguards their luster and ensures their untouched state. However, once removed from these secure confines, distinguishing one of these brilliant uncirculated set coins from a circulated business strike becomes a more challenging task, as their identical compositions blur the lines between a numismatic treasure and an everyday currency. The evolution of terminology within the numismatic community sheds light on the significance of these brilliant uncirculated set coins. They were initially referred to as Prooflike or PL coins, but the term underwent a transformation in the year 1977, with third-party grading companies and other references adopting the NBU designation. This change reflected a broader recognition of the coin's brilliant and uncirculated state, highlighting their value beyond more than currency. So pretty much what I am trying to tell you guys is if you buy a Canadian proof set after the year 1977, your coins will receive a designation of NBU, meaning brilliant uncirculated out of a set. But if you send a pre-1977 coin in to be graded, it will either receive a PL, Prooflike designation, or if it's a little bit earlier, it might also receive the PR designation, which is the Proof designation. The reason that I'm bringing this up is because a lot of these Mule coins will get the NBU designation. They weren't actually produced for general circulation. That doesn't mean that you can't find them in your pocket change, or if you are coin roll hunting, crazier things have happened and people have found true gems and one-of-a-kind holy grails before. So it is always good to have these coins on your radar and know what to look for so you don't accidentally let a gem slip back into the wilds of circulation. The Canadian 2009 Olympic Quarter Series is a set of commemorative quarters issued by the Royal Canadian Mint to celebrate the Vancouver 2010 Olympic and Paralympic Winter Games. Here's a brief breakdown of the series. The series consists of 17 different designs, each representing a different Olympic sport or Paralympic event. The designs showcase various winter sports such as skiing, snowboarding, hockey, curling, and more. The quarters were released in stages throughout the late 2000s leading up to the Winter Games in 2010. Each design was released individually in limited quantities, adding to their collectability. The mintage for each of the designs varied, with some being more abundant than others. However, overall, the series generated significant interest among collectors due to its unique theme and the limited availability of some of the pieces in the series. Some of the quarters featured colorized elements to enhance the design and highlight specific details of the sports depicted, such as the men's hockey, women's hockey, and Cindy Klassen quarters. These colored versions have a mintage of 3 million each, making them relatively rare by numismatic standards and highly sought after by collectors. Alongside the Olympic-themed quarters, the series also featured designs commemorating the Paralympic Games. These Paralympic quarters celebrate the achievements of para-athletes and highlight the diversity of the winter sports showcased during the Paralympic Winter Games. The inclusion of both Olympic and Paralympic themes in the series adds depth and inclusivity to the overall collection, reflecting Canada's commitment to promoting equality and diversity in sports. The 2007 Alpine Skiing Painted Leaf 25-cent Mule coin presents an intriguing case in the world of numismatics. This particular Mule variety can only be found within special cards issued by Petro-Canada in a number of collector sets. What sets this coin apart is the unconventional use of the 2008 obverse die instead of the proper 2007 die, resulting in the striking of approximately 40,000 coins with the wrong date of 2008 instead of the intended 2007. Interestingly, despite fitting the definition of a Mule coin due to the mismatched dies, a peculiar circumstance arises with this particular variety. While the 2008 dated coins technically qualify as mules, the rarity of the correct 2007 dated coins poses an intriguing conundrum. With only around 900 coins bearing the correct 2007 date compared to the significant larger quantity of Mule coins produced, one would expect the Mule coins to be less valuable than their correctly dated counterparts. Now, to determine whether your coin is a Mule or the regular issue, it is pretty simple. You just need to inspect the obverse side. The normal version will display the date 2007, while the Mule variety will show the date 2008. This subtle difference distinguishes between the two varieties and adds a level of allure to collecting these unique pieces. When considering the value of the 2007 Alpine Skiing Painted Leaf 25-cent Mule coin, several factors come into play. Despite the larger quantity of Mule coins that were produced, the scarcity of the correct 2007 dated coins adds a layer of complexity to their valuation. Collectors often place greater value on coins with a lower mintage figure, such as the correct 2007 dated coins, due to their rarity and desirability. However, the novelty and curiosity surrounding these Mule coins can also attract interest from collectors that seek unique and unusual pieces for their collections. So this one really comes down to preference, but it would seem that the more desirable of the two is the Mule coin, and chances are if you buy one of these, you are probably going to get the Mule. But if you get the the regular issue 2007 dated colored Alpine skiing quarter, then you have yourself a coin with a mintage figure of 900 or less. So it's pretty much a win-win scenario either way, whether you are seeking a coin with a very low mintage figure or you are seeking a rare variety to add to your collection. While the Mule variety of the 2007 Alpine skiing painted leaf 25-cent coin may seem quite abundant compared to its correct dated counterpart, its value is influenced by several factors, including the rarity of coins, demand from collectors, and also the circumstances of its acquisition, meaning how you actually find the coin. Collectors intrigued by the novelty of Mule coins and those seeking to complete their collections with rare varieties may find these coins to be valuable additions, despite the unexpected dynamics surrounding their production and availability. Now, one of these sealed sets typically commands a price of $15 to $30. Now, for this price, you are paying for a single coin, as the colored quarter is the only coin that you receive in this set, and also any accompanying packaging or documentation that they include. So you want to pay as little as possible if you aren't able to actually inspect the set and get a look at the sealed quarter inside the packaging, as anything extra you do pay will be a loss of profit unless you can identify the Mule variety and it is also in impeccable condition. Now, if you were able to find and identify the Mule in this set, I would suggest leaving it in the set and making sure that it is stored in a safe spot where it can't be affected by light, dust, or any environmental hazards. If you were to find one of these coins outside of the set, or if you are brave enough to crack open the package, you could send it off to be graded at PCGS or ICCS, but you definitely want to make sure that the company you are sending it to will give it the proper attribution you are looking for, but I am pretty sure all the companies will designate Mule coins. Now, in terms of this quarter's value, a high-grade example of this Mule coin, such as a PL65, which is a Prooflike 65 specimen, can significantly increase in value, with an estimated worth of around $50 for a PL65 example. Although this is a recognized variety, not a lot of people know about it, and it currently is flying under the radar a little bit, and I believe some of these estimations on Canadian coins are a little low currently, and as they become more popular and as I make more videos, I'm sure the popularity and values will only increase. So, $50 for a PL65. Now, there is also the grading cost to consider. You're going to be paying anywhere from $15 to $40 to get your coin graded, depending on where you send it and where you live. So you have to make sure that the condition of the coin validates the potential value when you pay for the sealed set, and then also for the grading fee after that. If you buy the coin set and then send the coin to be graded all for under $50, then you will most likely make a profit on this coin. But anything you go over that line, it will eat into the potential money that you can make if and when you want to sell the coin. Now, if the Mule coin scores higher than a PL65, its value could substantially escalate. In some cases where the coin exhibits exceptional quality, it's not uncommon for its value to soar to the range of $300 to $500 or even higher. Coins graded higher than PL65 are considered exceptional specimens and are highly sought after by serious collectors willing to pay a premium for top quality examples. Overall, the potential value of the 2007 Alpine skiing painted leaf 25-cent Mule coin hinges on several factors, including its condition, the grade, and market trends. Collectors interested in acquiring these Mule coins should consider these factors when assessing their potential value and investment prospects in the numismatic market. In honor of Canada's 150th anniversary, a glow-in-the-dark coin was introduced into circulation, presenting the ethereal charm of the Northern Lights in a new, truly distinctive manner. Crafted for the special occasion of Canada's 150th birthday, the 2017 toonie, aptly named the Dance of Spirits, pays homage to the marvels of Canadian landscapes by showcasing the breathtaking Aurora Borealis. The design on the reverse side of the Dance of the Spirits 2017 toonie portrays adventurers gracefully paddling across a tranquil lake beneath the radiant veil of the Northern Lights. The Northern Lights are actually referred to as the Dance of the Spirits by the Cree peoples, adding cultural depth and symbolism to the coin. Another cohesive element among the different 2017 commemorative coins is the inclusion of the Canada 150th logo, characterized by a mosaic arrangement of 13 triangular shapes. each representing a different province or territory. Some of the specifications for this coin: it was crafted with a 3-ply nickel finish plated with steel for the outer ring, and a 3-ply brass finish plated with aluminum bronze for the inner core. The coin has a weight of 6.99 grams and a diameter of 28 millimeters and was released for general circulation. Marking a significant milestone in coinage history, the Canadian 2017 glow-in-the-dark toonie stands out as the world's premier glow-in-the-dark coin to be introduced into general circulation. This wasn't the first instance of the Canadian Mint venturing into the realm of glow-in-the-dark coins. In the year 2012, Canada unveiled a quarter featuring the luminous skeleton of a dinosaur. Though this coin wasn't intended for widespread circulation, its innovation didn't go unnoticed. In fact, it garnered the prestigious Krause Publications 2014 Coin of the Year award for its trailblazing design, further solidifying Canada's reputation as a leader in numismatic innovation. Now, what do you say we get into the coin that you guys are all here to find out about, and that is the Canadian 2017 Snow on Trees variety for this glow-in-the-dark toonie. Now, the 2017 glow-in-the-dark Snow on Trees variety presents a distinctive feature that sets it apart from its regular counterpart. To identify this unique variety, one must scrutinize the details of the tree line on the center brass core of the coin. If the tree line is outlined by a white shading or glow, then it belongs to the Snow on Trees variety. If there is no white outlining the trees, then it is the standard version without any variety. While this error variety might not be widely recognized currently, it bears similarities to popular errors seen in coins from the United States, which have garnered considerable attention among collectors. Considering the rarity of the 2017 toonie, which is arguably one of the most scarcest in circulation, with a minimum base value ranging from $10 to $20 when they sell online, possessing the Snow on Trees or the Snow on Mountains variety could elevate the value of a high-grade example to being one of the most coveted among toonie collectors. Now, if we take a look at coin errors in the United States, one notable example is the extra leaf error found on the Wisconsin state quarter, which was released in the year 2004 as part of the 50 state quarters program. Now, on this subtle error, an additional leaf appears on the ear of the corn featured on the reverse side of the coin. This anomaly was the result of a die variety, likely due to misalignment during the minting process. Coin errors like the extra leaf Wisconsin quarter can significantly impact the value of a coin. Collectors often seek out such varieties due to their rarity and uniqueness. In the case of the Wisconsin quarter, coins with the extra leaf error can fetch prices well above their face value, particularly if they're in high-grade condition. Depending on factors such as the severity of the error, the coin's condition, and also demand from collectors, the value of these error coins can vary widely. These varieties are often viewed as curiosities and highly sought after by numismatists. As a result, error coins can command premiums in the numismatic market, and it makes them a valuable asset for collectors who are keen to acquire rare and unusual pieces that may appreciate in value. So even though this 2017 toonie might not be setting the coin world on fire right now, it doesn't mean that that can't change very quickly, and this could easily become one of the most valuable toonies that you could find or look for. If I had to give an estimate currently, if you were able to find one of these and identify the Snow on Trees variety, it would probably be worth about 5 to 10 times the value of the regular glow-in-the-dark toonie. So the regular glow-in-the-dark being worth around $100 to $150 in a high-grade state, I don't doubt that this coin could be worth up to $1,000 if it's scored in the high mint state range and somebody really wanted to add it to their collection. Now, one super crucial piece of advice that I want to share is about the value of coins. One of the questions that I get asked most often on my channel is, how much is my coin worth? Now, whether it's a rare gem, a key date, an error or variety, or even a common piece, determining a coin's true worth boils down to a simple fact. It's worth exactly what someone is willing to pay for it. Even though I might assess a coin at a certain value based on several factors such as rarity and condition, that estimate doesn't necessarily guarantee that the coin will actually sell for that price. For instance, you might find a buyer willing to pay top dollar for an MS67 example of a coin, especially if they're a passionate collector of error coins. But in most cases, buying and selling coins often results in a loss rather than a substantial profit. Now, there are instances where seemingly ordinary coins can fetch far more than their face value. I've actually experienced this firsthand. Some individuals have disposable income and are willing to splurge on coins, while others are driven by the desire to complete their collections and are willing to pay a premium for specific pieces. Additionally, there are those who may not be well versed in coin valuation and are simply drawn to spending money on items they find intriguing. So to summarize, a coin's rarity and potential value doesn't always translate into a guaranteed sale. Sometimes seemingly insignificant coins can sometimes fetch unexpectedly high prices. While I do advocate for honesty in representing a coin's value and discourage misrepresentation for profit, I also believe that certain modern coins, such as colored Canadian quarters from certain years, hold value beyond their face value. These coins, although occasionally encountered in everyday transactions in Canada, can be highly sought after by collectors worldwide, leading to increased demand and higher prices. So all of that being said, if you did find one of these 2017 toonies and you are able to identify the Snow on Trees variety, your best chance of being able to sell one of these for the highest premium is probably going to be on eBay or an online marketplace site like maybe Facebook Marketplace or Kijiji. The 2000 Millennium quarter sets introduced a fascinating addition to Canadian numismatics. They featured a non-legal tender token alongside the traditional coinage. This token boasts a striking design, showcasing a stylized map of Canada on the obverse side, with the reverse side proudly displaying the year 2000 amidst a field adorned with Royal Canadian Mint logos. The inclusion of this unique token adds an extra layer of significance to the commemorative sets and captivates the interests of collectors and enthusiasts alike. During the production of this token, a noteworthy anomaly emerged: the obverse die used for the token that was originally intended for the February 25-cent coin. This unforeseen occurrence led to the creation of a non-legal tender token featuring a denomination but lacking a corresponding date. This particular circumstance adds a layer of intrigue to these tokens, elevating their collectability and value among numismatists and those who seek rare and unusual pieces. For anyone wishing to identify whether their token is this rare mule, there are key indicators to look out for. The obverse of the mule token will bear the inscription 25 cents along with the effigy of Queen Elizabeth. This distinct combination sets the mule apart from the standard tokens, making it highly sought after. The discovery of these mules adds an element of excitement to the hobby and prompts enthusiasts to meticulously examine their collections in search of these elusive treasures. The allure of this mule token lies in its unique characteristics. They serve as a tangible reminder of the intricacies of coin production, showcasing the occasional deviations from the norm that can result in highly prized collectibles. For any avid collector or coin roll hunter, uncovering one of these mules would add a thrilling chapter to their numismatic journey. The value of the non-mule version of the 2000 Millennium quarter set token typically ranges from $3 to $10 when found individually outside of the complete set. However, the discovery of one of these mules, whether obtained through your pocket change coin roll hunting or included in one of these sets, could dramatically alter its worth. Due to the rarity and intrigue surrounding such anomalies in coin production, a mule coin can fetch a significantly higher premium, often reaching up to 10 times the value of the regular issue, depending on various factors such as its condition and the demand from collectors. When assessing the value of a mule coin, its condition plays a crucial role. Coins in pristine condition with minimal wear and damage tend to command much higher prices, as they are more desirable to collectors seeking quality specimens for their collections. Coins with noticeable flaws or signs of wear may fetch lower prices, although the rarity of the mule variety still contributes to its overall value. Another big factor that can influence the value of these coins is demand from collectors. Numismatists are often drawn to coins with unique characteristics or historical significance, such as mule coins, which result from production errors. The scarcity of these mule coins is what adds to their appeal, as collectors are willing to pay a premium to acquire these elusive pieces and add them to their collections. Now, the method of acquisition can also affect the perceived value of a mule coin. Coins discovered through chance encounters, such as finding them in your pocket change or while coin roll hunting, may hold sentimental value for the finder and could potentially command higher prices due to the excitement of the discovery. On the other hand, coins obtained through purchase, especially from reputable dealers or auctions, may be subject to market pricing based on factors such as its condition and also the demand. But this is a rare mule that most people do not know about, and it is sure to see an increase in value as time goes on and more people become aware of it. The value of a mule coin from the 2000 Millennium quarter set can vary greatly depending on its condition and the circumstances of its acquisition. While the non-mule version of this coin may have a modest value, the discovery of one of these mules can significantly increase its worth, with prices potentially reaching up to $100 to $500 for a high-grade specimen. Now, there is not a set price or value currently for this coin, so it is pretty much a case of it is worth whatever you can get somebody to pay for it. But if I ever found one of these in my pocket change or coin roll hunting, even if it wasn't in the greatest shape, I still wouldn't let it go for any less than $50. So once again, to be able to identify this coin, you want to look in the 2000 Millennium quarter set, and the obverse of the coin should feature the typical stylized map of Canada, while the reverse should actually have Queen Elizabeth and the denomination of 25 cents. So technically there will be two obverses on this coin. Canadian proof coins are special early samples of coin issues created for various purposes, including checking the dies for archival reasons. Historically, proof coins were initially made to ensure the accuracy of the dies used in coin production. Today, however, proofs are struck in greater quantities specifically for collector sets. This practice is not unique to Canada, but is actually common worldwide, with nearly all countries issuing proof coinage. The preparation of proof coins involves meticulous polishing of the dies, resulting in coins with sharper rims and design features, as well as smoother fields, which are the blank areas in the background of the coin. Modern proof pieces often exhibit frosted finishes of the design against polished fields achieved through various techniques such as chemical treatments or sandblasting the dies. In the early 19th century, matte proofs were produced, and although they may appear scratched, this was actually an intentional part of the production process. The term proof refers to the process of manufacturing the coins rather than their condition. Certification companies such as PCGS and NGC grade proof coins with the PR designation, with PR 70 being the highest grade, indicating a perfect example. Lower grades such as PR 59 or PR 50 reflect deficiencies in the strike, centering details, and condition issues on the coin. Most proof coins, including Canadian ones, undergo double striking under higher pressure. This ensures that the dies are fully imprinted onto the coin, capturing intricate details from the original die. Additionally, proof coins are handled separately and individually after being struck, in contrast to regular ones, which are often thrown into large bins. When it comes to Canadian coins, those produced for a proof set will receive a PR grade, while those produced for uncirculated or proof-like sets, which are distinct from proof sets, are designated with a PL grade up until the year 1977. The designation changed from PL to NBU, which actually designates the coins as numismatic brilliant uncirculated. Any coins that you buy in proof-like or uncirculated coin sets are actually not much different than the standard circulation issues. They're just handled with a bit more care. But if you buy a proof set of Canadian coins, the strikes will actually be much more prominent, and they could also have a different finish, like possibly a frosted finish. And a lot of the time they are offered in different compositions as well. You can also buy Canadian proof coins in a sterling silver composition for a lot of years. The Royal Canadian Mint releases various collector sets catering to a wide range of themes and compositions, often showcasing the country's rich cultural heritage, natural beauty, and also significant historical events. The 2007 Canadian Premium Wedding Proof Set holds a distinguished place in the former offerings of the Canadian Mint, marking a significant milestone as the first special wedding set made available for general purchase. Limited to an exceptionally low mintage of only 849 sets, this collection holds immense appeal for collectors and individuals commemorating their own nuptials or those seeking one of these rare 2007 silver loonies. This exclusive set is a testament to the craftsmanship and attention to detail synonymous with the Canadian Mint. Each coin in this unique collection, which includes the traditional circulation coins, is actually minted in sterling silver which elevates the set to a level of prestige and elegance, benefiting such a monumentous occasion. The use of sterling silver adds not only intrinsic value, but also a luxurious touch to these coins and adds to their visual appeal. Now, without a doubt, the centerpiece of the 2000 wedding sterling silver coin set is the sterling silver dollar, which features the iconic common loon. Complementing this special silver loonie is a bronze medallion crafted to commemorate the bride and groom's special day. This medallion depicts a delicate wedding bouquet on one side, symbolizing love and unity, while the reverse features traditional wedding bells, evoking images of celebration and happiness. The medallion's design is intricately detailed, reflecting the importance of the occasion that it commemorates. Accompanying the set is a separate card providing detailed descriptions of the historical significance of both the wedding flowers and bell, enriching the collector's understanding of the symbolism behind these coins and the medallion. Now, the sterling silver loonie that is included in the 2007 Canadian Premium Wedding Proof set holds a significant portion of the set's value and appeal. The other denominations produced for the set, aside from the silver loonie, were produced with much higher mintage figures, but the medallion and the sterling silver $1 coin were produced with the mintage figure of only 849, which adds to its rarity and also adds a layer of exclusivity that collectors highly covet. Since the loonie's release in the year 1987, there have been several sterling silver commemorative loonies released, but none quite as rare as this one. With only 849 examples produced, it is actually probably one of the rarest and lowest mintage Canadian coins that you can find, and the fact that it comes out of a fairly modern set only adds to its intrigue and appeal to those interested in acquiring rare Canadian coins with extremely low mintage figures. Now, this silver $1 coins composition is 92.5% silver and 7.5% copper, otherwise known as sterling silver. It was crafted with a proof finish, which showcases the impeccable detail and craftsmanship and elevates the aesthetic appeal of this $1 piece. The 2007 silver loonie should measure 26.5 millimeters in diameter, and it should weigh 7 grams. It should have an 11-sided plain edge, which is the standard for Canadian loonies. Now, in terms of this coin's individual value outside the set, you would be hard pressed to find a loose example of this coin for any less than $300, but usually in most cases you're probably going to be paying a minimum of around $500 or more for a coin like this, even if it's just loose in a coin flip and ungraded. So you definitely want to make sure all of the specifications line up, because I could eventually see some counterfeits floating around, as these are one of the most valuable loonies ever produced since it was first released. Now, when it comes to finding or acquiring one of these 2007 silver loonies, chances are you probably aren't going to find one of these in your pocket change or coin roll hunting, but never say never. Crazier things have happened, and I've actually found Canadian quarters in circulation that had mintage figures as low as 20,000. I mean, you'd have to be a pretty big fool to buy one of these sets with a mintage figure as low as 849 and crack it open for face value, but I could see a few of them having made their way into the wilds of circulation. And even if you don't find one of these loonies in the wild, you can purchase these sets sealed and brand new at your local coin shop. They might be in stock, they might not, but if you check around, you might be able to find one of these sets. I would suggest not paying any more than maybe $900 to $1,000 for the entire set, but this loonie is extremely rare, and I only see the value going up as time goes on. The Canadian Millennium Quarter Series, released in the years 1999 and 2000, was a remarkable numismatic project initiated by the Canadian Mint. It began with the Millennium Coin Design Contest, which was announced in April 1998, which invited Canadians to submit designs for 24 quarters, one for each month spanning the 2 years. The aim was to commemorate the turn of the millennium by celebrating Canada's past and looking towards its future. The series was divided into 2 parts. The 1999 quarters were designed to reflect Canada's history, while the 2000 Millennium quarters looked ahead to the future. Each of these different coins bore a unique design representing a particular aspect of Canadian heritage or culture. The 1999 quarters were labeled with the retrospective month of issue and showcased various themes significant to Canada's past. These included the country's growth and development, its natural wonders, and its cultural diversity. The designs ranged from depictions of historical events to symbols of Canada's natural beauty and the contributions of its Indigenous peoples. Following the success of the 1999 series, the Canadian Mint continued the project into the year 2000 with a focus on themes representing Canada's future. These themes ranged from technological advancements to social progress and environmental stewardship. Upon release, these coins were widely circulated and became cherished collectibles, appealing not only to numismatists but also to those Canadians eager to commemorate the milestone of the new millennium. The series captured the imagination of the nation and served as a reflection of Canada's identity and aspirations as it entered the 21st century. The Canadian Millennium Quarter Series is a true testament to the Mint's commitment to commemorating significant moments in Canadian history and culture through the artistry of coinage. It remains a cherished part of Canada's numismatic history, offering a glimpse into the country's past and also hopes for the future. Now, what do you say we get into the coin that you guys are all here to find out about? The 1999 Canadian Millennium Quarter Series included a rare air known as the September Overstrike, although it's more accurately described as a die clash. This air is characterized by an unusual counterclash die mark on the reverse side of the coin, specifically affecting the extreme right of the child's triangle in the Through a Child's Eye September design. Counterclash marks can also be visible in some of the other surrounding areas but are much more lighter, and you will typically find the main die clash in the center of the child on the right side of the reverse of the coin. A Type 2 counter die clash such as this occurs when a die strikes a piece of hard metal within the striking chamber. This could be a fragment of a die, a collar, a stray nut, or any other hard object. The initial strike leaves a die-struck design on the metal fragment. If the fragment shifts position within the striking chamber and it is struck again, the second strike transfers the design back to the die face, typically just the field portion. As a result, the die face now carries an in-use mirror image version of the design. Every planchette struck after this will have raised, normally oriented design elements in an unexpected location. The rarity of the September Overstrike lies in its unusual nature and the fact that it's a die clash air specifically affecting a limited number of the coins in the 1999 Millennium Quarter Series. The air coins with this counter clash mark are highly sought after by collectors due to their uniqueness and the intriguing story behind their creation. Collectors value air coins for their rarity, and this September Overstrike is definitely no exception. These coins often command higher prices in the numismatic market, especially among those specializing in air coin collecting. The specific design and theme of the Through a Child's Eye September quarter makes this air particularly fascinating to collectors, and it adds an extra layer of interest to an already distinctive design. So anyone out there who has a birthday in September and is into coin collecting may be extra keen to acquire one of these. Identifying the September Overstrike air in the Canadian 1999 Millennium Quarter Series involves recognizing specific characteristics on the reverse side of the coin, particularly in the design element representing the Through a Child's Eye. Now here are some of the key features to look for to identify this overstrike or die clash air. Counter clash marks. The most distinguishing feature of the September Overstrike is the presence of counter clash marks, which appear as in-use mirror image versions of the design. These marks are typically located around the child on the right's triangle in the design. They may also be visible in other surrounding areas but are usually lighter. You also want to look for unusual placement of design elements. Due to the counter clash, the raised design elements on the coin may appear in unexpected locations. In the case of this September Overstrike, the child's triangle may show raised elements in places where they should not be according to the original design. Comparison with normal coins. To confirm this error, it's helpful to compare the coin in question with the normal version of the September Millennium Quarter. This allows for a side-by-side comparison to identify any differences in the design, particularly the placement of the design elements or the absence or presence of these counter clash marks in the small triangle on the child on the right side of the reverse. Certification by experts. For any serious collectors or investors, obtaining certification from a reputable grading service or an expert in air coins can provide additional confirmation on the coin's authenticity and classification, such as the September overstrike error. Documentation and historical context. Understanding the background of coin errors such as this, including how it occurred and its rarity, can help you appreciate the significance of rare error pieces such as this. This information can be found in numismatic literature, online forums, or through reputable dealers. But if you guys would like to find out more about Canadian coins, I definitely suggest that you go check out my website, northcentralcoins.com. I have my coin roll match for sale on there, as well as weekly articles that are updated. And if you want to find information that is not necessarily here on my YouTube channel, then I definitely suggest you go check that out. Now, some of the details and specifications for this piece, if any of these are off, it may indicate that it is not an authentic example. The overall mintage figure for the September 1999 Millennium Series quarter is 31,077,650, and the overstrike error will be within that. It is composed of 100% nickel. It has a die-axis and metal alignment, as is the standard for most Canadian, British, and Australian coins. It has a weight of 5.05 grams and a diameter of 23.88 millimeters. Now, as we get into the values for the September 1999 overstrike coin, it does have a low-end premium. You're not going to get rich off of finding one of these in a beat-up shape, but I would say if you find one and it's at the bottom of the Sheldon scale, you can still probably get anywhere from $5 to $10, especially if it has very noticeable die clashes where it should, which is within the triangle on the child on the right side of the reverse of the coin. But if it can score around the AU50 mark, it can be worth around $25. Now, as we start to get into the MS range, this coin can be worth around $85 for an MS62, and the highest auction record that I was able to find is $300 for an MS64. If you're able to find one out of an uncirculated roll and it scored any higher, I don't doubt that you could easily get anywhere from $500 to $1,000. That might be one of your best chances to find one of these at this point. It's just to buy some uncirculated rolls of these September 1999 quarters, bust them open, and if you have just a few of these die clash errors, then you have hit the jackpot. But the good news about these errors is usually when you buy an uncirculated roll, either all of the coins inside will have them or none of them will. So it is a bit of a gamble, but definitely an interesting one to take in the world of coin collecting. The 1967 Canadian Rabbit Nickel is a fascinating coin for collectors, especially due to the rare rotated die error, which can be found with rotations of either 90 or 180 degrees. This particular error is most commonly discovered in Canadian proof sets from the year 1967, but it is also possible to find it on regular issue business strike coins. However, it's super important to note that the most recognized and highly valued versions of the 1967 Rabbit Nickels with rotated die errors originate from proof sets. Now, to understand the nuances between different types of coin strikes, it's essential to distinguish between Prooflike, which is known as PL, Brilliant Uncirculated, which is known as NBU, and Business Strike coins, which are known as Mint State or MS. Prooflike or PL coins are not intended for circulation. They are struck and sold by the Canadian Mint in special packaging. Despite usually having the same composition as coins produced for circulation, PL coins are set apart by their superior finish, which includes a mirror-like surface and sharp details due to their high-quality strike. The packaging is a key element here because it helps preserve their pristine condition. If these PL coins are removed from their protective envelope or case, it becomes more challenging to differentiate them from uncirculated or business strike coins. The most valuable 1967 Rabbit Nickels with rotated die errors are usually found from the Canadian PL sets from the year 1967. Now, there are also Brilliant Uncirculated coins, which are classified as NBU. These coins share some similarities with PL coins. They are also not intended for circulation and are struck and sold by the Mint in special packaging. The term NBU started being used by third-party grading companies and other references beginning in the year 1977, essentially replacing the term Prooflike. NBU coins are characterized by their pristine condition. Similar to Prooflike coins, if NBU classified coins are removed from their original packaging, it can be extremely hard to distinguish them from regular circulation issues. While the NBU designation came after the year 1967, understanding this terminology will help you understand the types of high quality strikes that you can look for when it comes to collecting or coin roll hunting. Now, business strike coins are the standard coins produced for everyday use and circulation. These coins are typically minted in large quantities, distributed to the general public, and it is intended to be used as currency for everyday transactions. The condition, finish, and quality of business strike coins will typically not be as high as PL or even NBU coins because they are meant to withstand the rigors of daily handling and circulation. Now, although it is not considered as valuable or rare as the Prooflike version, this rotated die error can also appear on regular business strike issues on 1967 Canadian rabbit nickels. However, these examples typically do not command as high a value as those from the proof sets due to their lesser finish and the higher likelihood of wear and tear. The 1967 Canadian rabbit nickels are a significant piece of Canadian numismatic history, both for their commemorative value and also for the rare rotated die errors that make certain specimens highly sought after by collectors. This coin was issued to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Confederation of Canada, a landmark event that prompted the Canadian government to commission special designs for the Canadian coin denominations from the penny through to the silver dollar for that year. A few years prior, in 1964, the Canadian Minister of Finance, Walter L. Gordon, announced a competition inviting artists, sculptors, and designers residing in Canada or Canadians living abroad to submit special designs for the new centennial coinage. The competition offered a $2,500 first prize for the winning designs in each of the different 6 coinage denominations. A distinguished panel of judges was appointed to select the winning designs. The winning designs were chosen from submissions received by the competition's closing date on March 31st, 1965, and the winners were announced in the Mint Report of 1966. Alex Colville of Sackville, New Brunswick was selected for all reverses of the 1967 centennial coinage, and Arnold Maughan designed the obverses featuring Queen Elizabeth II. The 1967 5-cent coin, affectionately known as the rabbit nickel, features a design by Alex Colville of a hopping rabbit, symbolizing wildlife of Canada and capturing the spirit of centennial celebrations. Unlike the dimes, quarters, half dollars, and silver dollars, which were struck in silver with some in 50% and some in 80%, and only 80% for the half dollars and silver dollars, the rabbit nickels were composed of the usual composition of 99.9% nickel. A particularly intriguing aspect of the 1967 rabbit nickel is the occurrence of these rotated die errors. This error results when the obverse and reverse dies are misaligned when the coins are being struck, leading to the images on the two sides of the coin not being correctly oriented. The two most notable degrees of rotation are 90 degrees and 180 degrees. Now, the errors on the 1967 Canadian rabbit nickels are most commonly found in proof sets from 1967, which were specially minted for collectors with higher quality strikes and finishes. To identify a 90-degree rotation, hold the coin with the obverse or the Queen's portrait facing upright. If you then rotate or spin the coin around and the rabbit design appears to be on a 90-degree angle rather than upright, then you have the 90-degree rotated die error. This means that the rabbit design will be oriented horizontally either to the left or right. To identify the 180-degree error, the rabbit design will be upside down when the obverse or the queen is upright. This means that the rabbit will be directly inverted in comparison to the obverse side of the coin. One of the easiest ways I can suggest to identify this misaligned or rotated die error is to actually put your rabbit nickel into a cardboard coin flip. And then if you flip over to the obverse side and make sure that the queen is facing up, and then you flip over to the rabbit side and it is not oriented in the same direction, then you have yourself the rotated die. That's usually how I check them. Your best chance of being able to find one of these 1967 rotated die PL rabbit nickels is out of a Canadian Prooflike set from the year 1967, but that doesn't mean that you can't ever find one in the wild. But if these coins are removed from their original protective packaging, it will be much more difficult and challenging to distinguish them from a regular uncirculated business strike. The rotated die air found on the PL version of these coins is particularly valuable due to the limited number produced and their enhanced quality. While the rotated die air is most recognized and valuable in proof sets, it can also occur in regular issue business strike coins, which were minted for everyday circulation. Business strike coins will typically have a less refined finish compared to PL coins due to the higher speed and larger quantities in which they are produced. Although finding a rotated die air on a business strike version of one of these 1967 rabbit nickels is not as valuable as one from the proof set, it still adds a premium to the coin due to the novelty and rarity of the air. These coins, whether found in proof sets or in your pocket change, represent a fascinating intersection of artistry, history, and the meticulous process of coin minting. Collectors highly prize these coins not only for their unique airs, but also for their place in commemorating Canada's centennial, marking an era of national pride and cultural celebration. The combination of Alex Colville's iconic rabbit design and the potential for discovering a rare rotated die air makes these 1967 rabbit nickels a compelling addition to any coin collection. Before we get into the values for the different versions of the 1967 rotated die rabbit nickels, some of the details and specifications of any of these are off and may indicate that it is not a legitimate example. The overall mintage for the 1967 Canadian rabbit nickel is 36,876,574. It is composed of pure nickel. It has a weight of 4.54 grams. It has a current melt value of 12 cents, a diameter of 21.21 millimeters. The standard die axis for 1967 nickels will be in metal alignment, which is the standard for Canadian, British, and Australian coins, but if it has a rotated die air, it may appear more like an American coin, or either the queen or the rabbit will not be oriented in the same direction. Now, the obverse of this coin was designed by Arnold Mockin and the reverse by Alex Colville. Now, what do you say we get into some of the values for the 1967 Canadian rotated die rabbit nickels? I'm going to be giving you guys the values for the PL versions of this coin, which is the Prooflike. Now, just to give you guys an idea, if you pull one of these 1967 rabbit nickels out of a Prooflike set and it doesn't have the rotated die air, it can only be worth around $1.50 for a PL63, and it has a maximum value currently of around $35. So not super valuable even on the high end. Now, if you're able to identify the 180-degree rotated die air, which will mean that the rabbit and queen are oriented in the opposite direction of each other, it can be worth around $1,000 for a PL64, and it has a current maximum evaluated price of around $1,900 for a PL66. If it graded any higher, you could easily see a $2,500 nickel. And that is for the 180-degree rotated die air. And then last but not least, we have the 90-degree rotated die air. Now, to identify this one, if you flip over to the obverse and the queen is facing upright, and then you spin over to the reverse, and then the rabbit is facing to the side, then you have yourself the 90-degree rotated die air. Now, there's currently only one evaluated price for this coin, and it is around $1,000 for a PL64, not quite as valuable as the 180-degree air, but if you are able to find either of these and they have the 90 or 180-degree, they are extremely rare and valuable. In most cases, if you do find a rotated die on a business strike version of the 1967 Canadian nickel, it won't be quite as significant as a 90 or 180-degree rotation. It will only be slightly off axis, but if you are able to identify a 90 or 180-degree rotation off of a coin you find in your pocket change, I definitely suggest sending it in, because it may have even been pulled out of a Prooflike set at some point. Numismatists the world over are aware of an extremely rare quarter variety that comes from Canada. This coin is the 1973 Canadian large bust Mountie quarter. Now, the Mountie quarter was created 50 years ago to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Northwest Mounted Police, which was later called the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. The Northwest Mounted Police was established in 1873 to maintain order in the Canadian Northwest Territories. In 1920, the Northwest Mounted Police and Dominion Police were amalgamated to form the RCMP. Now, depending on where you live in Canada, you may have different opinions on the RCMP. I am from the province of Ontario, and they do not have a very heavy presence here. I have not actually seen many RCMP throughout the course of my life or had any interactions with them. The police service we deal with here are the OPP, and for the most part, they are pretty good here. But if you want to let me know what you think of the RCMP down in the comments in a friendly way, I would love to know. The reverse of the coin was designed by Walter Ott, an Austrian-trained master engraver, artist, and designer who worked at the Royal Canadian Mint in Ottawa. The design shows a constable holding a bamboo-shafted lance carried by members of the RCMP on horseback. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police's horse breeding program began in 1939. In 1973, 134,958,587 quarters were produced for circulation, and proof and specimen coins were also made. The design was changed up from a caribou to the Mountie design, and the obverse die was retooled to ensure proper metal flow. The size of Queen Elizabeth II's obverse portrait was reduced to achieve fine details on the reverse, and the ornamental beading on the obverse was also modified. Virtually all of the 1973 RCMP Centennial Canadian quarters were struck with the smaller busts on the obverse, but a small amount of the coins were produced with the obverse of 1972, creating the two varieties of the small and large bust. The amount of coins with the large bust does not exceed 10,000 according to the Charlton and PCGS guides and website. When the dies were retooled in 1973, it resulted in a smaller portrait of Queen Elizabeth II on the obverse of the coin with greater refinement to her hair detail. Another way to differentiate between the large and small bust quarter is by the placement of the beads and the top of the letter A in Regina. The large bust quarter has beads that sit close to the rim, and the top of the A points directly to a bead, while the small bust quarter has beads set farther from the rim, and the top of the A points at a spot between two beads. The size of the bust and position of the head on the coin are extremely important details. On the large bust, the beads will appear to touch the rim of the coin, while there is space between the beads and the rim on the small bust quarter. If you're still unsure, one of the best ways is actually to compare it to a 1972 25-cent coin, which will have the large bust and bead arrangement as if it were the 1973 large bust. Now we'll get into the specifications and value of the 1973 Mountie quarters. They are composed of nickel. The monarch on the obverse of the coin is Queen Elizabeth II. It has a weight of 5.1 grams. They have a diameter of 23.8 millimeters, a thickness of 1.6 millimeters. The coin is in metal alignment, as most Canadian coins are, and the edge of the coin is reeded. Now, the Canadian 1973 Mountie quarter comes in all three of the different Canadian finishes that were offered at that time. It comes in a business strike, which will get an MS designation. It comes in a proof strike, which will get the PL designation, and also a specimen, which will get the SP. Now, depending on the finish of the coin, it will heavily affect the value. The business strike is the most valuable of the bunch, but the other ones are quite valuable as well, and it's definitely a good idea to keep your eye open, especially at flea markets and if you're buying coins in an estate sale or maybe in a lot on eBay. So in terms of value, the 1973 small bust business strike is worth around $1 for an MS60, and it can actually be worth all the way up to $61 for an MS65. Now that is for the small bust quarter. Now the 1973 large bust is worth $346 for an MS60 example, and it can be worth all the way up to $3,240 for an MS65. That is buku, insane amounts of money. Now in my coin roll hunts, I have found thousands and thousands of the 1973 Mountie quarters. I still personally have not found any of the large busts. I have known people that have found the large bust before. If you were to find one of these in a high mint state, you can make some really good money off of it. And chances are, if you do find one of these coin roll hunting, it is probably going to be the business strike. Now let's get into the proof strikes. The 1973 proof strike is only worth around $1 in a PL64. It can be worth up to $39.20 for a PL67. The 1973 large bust proof strike can be worth around $177 for a PL63 and all the way up to $677 for a PL67. So even if you were able to identify a set that contains the 1973 large bust quarter and you pay like $100 for it, if it's in decent shape, you can send it off to be graded by a company like PCGS, NGC, maybe ICCS, and make quite a return on the coin. Now, lastly, we will discuss the specimen finishes for these coins. First, the 1973 small bust. It's worth around $1.94 for a specimen 66, and it can be worth all the way up to $14.70 for a specimen 67. The 1973 large bust specimen can be worth around $173 for an SP64 and all the way up to $539 for an MS67. Now, I have actually owned 1973 specimen sets. You can usually pick them up from your local coin shops for a pretty decent price. I'm guessing that they have probably done their due diligence and checked for the large bust already, so your best chance of finding sets that may contain the large bust quarter are probably in flea markets, estate sales, or maybe in a lot on eBay or Facebook Marketplace. Well, I think that is pretty much going to do it for this one. The 1973 large bust quarter is probably the most requested coin that I get questions about all the time. People want to know how much it is worth, where they can sell it. If you guys want to sell your coins, the best place is honestly to take them to your local coin shop. First, I would want to make sure and be very sure that it is the variety that I think it is, because if you bring a coin into a coin shop that you think is rare or valuable and it is worthless, they are probably going to laugh you out the door. So do your research. There are several resources out there. In the year 1967, Canada celebrated its 100th anniversary of the Confederation with a special set of commemorative coins. One of the most iconic being the $1 silver coin, featuring a soaring Canada Goose design. This coin was part of a nationwide design competition. This competition was launched in 1964 by the Canadian Minister of Finance, offering a $2,500 prize for each winning design across each of the different 6 coin denominations. The competition attracted entries from Canadian artists, and the reverse designs were created by renowned artist Alex Colville, while the obverse showcasing Queen Elizabeth II is designed by Arnold Mockin. Alex Colville's Canada Goose design for the silver dollar was chosen for its majestic presence, symbolizing both the vastness of the country and the dynamic nature of its wildlife. The Canada Goose, as one of Canada's most recognized and majestic creatures, was a fitting representation for the dollar coin. The 1967 coins also marked a transitional period for Canadian currency, with some being minted in 80% silver and others being minted in 50%, as the country shifted away from using high silver content in its coin production. It is important to note that the composition change in 1967 only happened for the dimes and quarters. The half dollars and silver dollars were still all produced in 80% silver in the year 1967. Beyond their beautiful design and their historical significance, the 1967 silver dollar is most famous for a specific minting error, the rotated die error, where some coins feature a diving goose due to a 45-degree rotation. The most valuable version of this error is the 180-degree coin alignment error, with high-grade examples of this piece being worth tens of thousands of dollars today. A rotated die error occurs when the design on one side of a coin does not align properly with the design on the other side. In most cases, both sides of a coin should be perfectly aligned when flipped vertically or horizontally, depending on whether they were struck in coin or metal alignment. However, a rotated die error occurs when the dies that are being used to strike the coin are misaligned, which results in one side being rotated in relation to the other. Now, there are 2 main types of rotated die errors. The first is stable rotation. This happens when one of the dies was installed incorrectly and remains in that position for the production of multiple coins. Each of these coins will have the same degree of rotation. There is also dynamic rotation. This occurs when the dies being used to strike the coins become loose during the production process, causing it to gradually rotate with each strike. As a result, the degree of rotation can vary across the coins from the same production batch. The 2 different rotated die errors on the 1967 Goose dollars would be considered stable rotation, and that is because these Goose dollars can only be attributed with these errors if they come with the fixed rotations of either 45 degrees or 180 degrees. That's not saying if you find one and it does have a slight rotation that you may be able to get a slight premium, but usually people want to see the fixed rotations of either 45 degrees or 180 degrees on the 1967 dollars. To measure the rotation of a coin, you need to compare the alignment of the designs on both sides. One of the easiest ways that I suggest to be able to detect a rotated die error is to get some cardboard coin flips or maybe buy some cheap coin slabs, put your coin inside and then look at one side and then flip it over to the other side, and if the other face of the coin is not aligned in the right direction, then you have yourself one of these rotated die errors. The most well-known error on the 1967 silver goose dollars is the diving goose error, where the image of the goose is rotated 45 degrees, giving the impression that the goose is diving down towards the left. While the 45-degree rotation is more notable, the most valuable version of this error is actually the 180-degree or coin alignment error, where the designs on both sides are completely upside down relative to each other. High-grade examples of this 180-degree error can be worth tens of thousands of dollars, making it highly sought after by experienced collectors. The value of these rotated die errors depends on several factors, including the degree of rotation, the coin's condition, and how rare that specific error is. Another rare and highly sought after version of the 1967 Canadian silver goose dollar is the double struck error coin. This error occurs when the coin is struck twice by the dies, leaving a second misaligned impression on both the obverse and the reverse. In the case of the 1967 double struck dollar, the second strike is rotated about 10 to 15 degrees from the original impression, which creates a noticeable double image of both the queen and the goose. Double struck coins are the result of a malfunction in the minting process, where the coin is struck more than once by the dies. In a typical minting process, a blank coin or planchette is placed between the two dies, one for the obverse and one for the reverse, and is struck with immense pressure to create the design. Once struck, the coin is supposed to be ejected from the press and moved along the production line. However, in the case of a double strike, the coin remains in the press after the initial strike and is actually struck again. Now, there are a few reasons that double struck coins can be produced in a minting facility. Ejection mechanism failure. The most common cause is a failure in the mechanism that ejects the coin after the first strike. If the coin doesn't move properly, the press may strike it again, leaving a second impression. Die misalignment. In the case of a double struck error like the 1967 goose dollar, the second strike is misaligned by about 10 to 15 degrees. This means that the coin shifted slightly in position between strikes, causing the two impressions to overlap but not perfectly align. Human error. Occasionally, an operator may unknowingly leave a planchette in the press, causing a double strike. In older minting processes, this could be more common due to manual intervention. Now, some of the visual characteristics for the 1967 double struck goose dollar. On the reverse side of the coin, the most obvious sign of the error is the ghosted or doubled image of the Canada goose. Since the second strike is rotated slightly, it creates a double goose image where the wings, body, and neck appear shifted from the first strike. Also, on the obverse, the queen's portrait appears doubled with visible outlines of her head, crown, and facial features from both strikes overlapping. Double struck coins, especially those with visible and significant rotation between strikes, are highly prized by collectors. The rarity and degree of misalignment play a major role in determining their value. In the case of the 1967 double struck goose dollar, the combination of a unique design and an unusual minting error make these coins a standout piece in Canadian numismatic history. Now, before we get into the values for these different 1967 goose dollar errors, some of the details and specifications of any of these are off and may indicate it is not a legitimate or authentic example. The overall mintage for the 1967 goose dollar is 6,767,496, and all of the three different errors that you can look for are included in that mintage figure. They are composed of 80% silver, 20% copper. They have a weight of 23.33 grams, a diameter of 36.00 millimeters, and a thickness of 2.84 millimeters. The obverse was designed and engraved by Arnold Mockin and Walter Ott, and the reverse by Alex Colville and Myron Cook. The edge of the coin is reeded and it has a diaxis and metal alignment, as is the standard for most Canadian, British, and Australian coins. Now, just to give you guys an idea and a base price, I will start off with the regular 1967 Goose dollar. It can be worth around $25 for an MS60 and all the way up to $500 for an MS66, but it is very rare that you are going to find these in that high of a grade. Usually when you're buying these in scrap condition, honestly, you're going to pay anywhere from $20 to $25. If you're lucky, you might be able to get them for a few dollars cheaper. So if you do find one and it's in an MS60, or if you can buy one for $25 for an MS60, you're probably getting a pretty good deal. Now, the first of the different varieties that we will discuss is actually the most rare and valuable, and that is the 1967 in coin alignment, meaning that the goose design on the reverse and the portrait of Queen Elizabeth will be rotated 180 degrees in relation to the reverse side. If you can find one of these in the coin alignment, it is the rarest and most valuable of all of the 1967 goose dollar varieties. It can be worth around $5,000 for an MS60 and all the way up to $17,500 for an MS66. If you did find one and it scored the epic MS67 mark, you could easily be talking a $25,000, $30,000 coin. Next up, we'll discuss the most notable of the different 1967 heirs, and that is the diving goose dollar. Now, to identify the 1967 diving goose dollar, you want to look at the reverse of the coin and take a look at the goose, and then you want to flip over to the obverse. And if it looks like the goose design on the reverse and then the portrait of the queen on the obverse are rotated 45 degrees in relation to each other, that means that the goose on the reverse will also be diving down towards the bottom left with its beak pointing down in that direction. Then you have the diving goose variety. It can be worth around $800 for an MS60 and all the way up to $2,100 for an MS65. If it did grade any higher, you could see a decent price jump. You could easily be talking a $3,000 to $5,000 coin, and that is for the Diving Goose 1967 silver dollar. Now, last but not least, we are going to discuss the double struck 1967. Now, to identify this, it should be pretty simple. It will basically look like the coin was struck twice. There should be two impressions, and they will be slightly rotated on both the obverse and reverse. I will leave an example of exactly what it looks like on the screen right now. But if you can identify the double struck example of the 1967 Goose dollar, it can be worth around $1,000 for an MS60, and all the way up to $2,700 for an MS66. So actually a little bit more rare and valuable than the Diving Goose dollar. It's flown under the radar a little bit, no pun intended. The Diving Goose dollar is definitely the most notable of these heirs, and you probably have the best chance of being able to find one of those, but you should definitely keep your eyes open because you never know what you can find if you are searching through your coin collection, your pocket change, or maybe you make a scrap silver purchase. The 1967 Canadian Bobcat quarter is a remarkable coin for collectors, not only for its stunning design by renowned Canadian artist Alex Colville, but also for the fascinating minting era that led to the creation of the extremely rare nickel versions. Originally, the entire mintage run of the 1967 Bobcat quarters was intended to be struck in either 50% silver and 50% copper, or 80% silver and 20% copper, or 0.50 and 0.80. This adjustment in the metal composition was part of a broader effort by the Canadian Mint to prepare for a transition to nickel coinage, which aimed at reducing the cost of producing higher denomination coins for the dimes, quarters, half dollars, and silver dollars. However, during this busy period, which involved the production of commemorative coins for Canada's centennial, a small batch of nickel planchettes, which were typically reserved for the future coin denominations, were accidentally used to strike some of these 25-cent Bobcat quarters. This mix-up resulted in the creation of one of the rarest Canadian coins in existence, the 1967 nickel Bobcat quarter. Numismatists believe that only 5 to 10 examples of this extremely rare coin still exist, making it an extraordinarily sought-after item for collectors. A certified example of one of these, graded SP64, which is specimen 64 by PCGS, sold in auction for a staggering $3,000 in the year 2019, solidifying its status as one of Canada's most valuable heir coins. Now, given this piece's extreme rarity, knowing how to identify one of these coins is incredibly important if you want to be able to make the big bucks. So here's what you should look for. First, you want to perform the magnet test. The simplest and most effective way to determine whether you have a nickel or silver 1967 Bobcat quarter is to perform a magnet test. Silver is non-magnetic, so if your 1967 Bobcat quarter does not stick to a magnet, you likely have a silver version. Now, on the other hand, if the 1967 Bobcat quarter sticks to the magnet, it is likely the extremely rare nickel version of this coin. You also want to look for visual differences. Nickel coins tend to have a duller appearance compared to their silver counterparts. The silver Bobcat quarters, whether they're 50 or 80% silver, generally exhibit a more lustrous or shiny finish, especially in higher grade or well-preserved states. The nickel version of this coin, by contrast, may appear more dull and lack the same level of reflection that is characteristic of the silver coins. This very subtle difference in appearance can provide additional clues when identifying one of these coins. You then also want to do the weight test. While this might not be immediately obvious to the naked eye, the difference in metal composition between nickel and silver affects the weight of this coin. A 1967 quarter made of silver will actually weigh slightly more than the rare nickel version. If you have a scale, compare the weight of your Bobcat quarter to the standard weights for a silver version, and if there is a difference in weights, then you may have the rare version. I will actually go over the exact weights of the silver and nickel versions later on in this video. You can also perform a ping test. For silver Bobcat quarters, distinguishing between the 50 and 80% silver versions is a bit tricky. One tried and true method is the ping test, which involves gently tapping the coin to produce a sound. Silver coins emit a clear, ringing tone when they are struck, and the pitch may vary slightly depending on the silver content of the coin. The higher silver content in the 80% quarters should produce a longer, more resonant ping compared to the 50% silver variety, which may produce a slightly duller or short tone. Collectors will often use this method as an alternative to using expensive silver testing machines. Now, you can also get your coin professionally tested. If you're serious about determining whether you have a nickel Bobcat quarter, and if you want to know the exact silver composition of one of your 1967 regular silver Bobcat quarters, a more definitive option is to use a precious metal testing machine. These devices, typically used by professional coin graders or bullion dealers, can accurately determine the metal composition for your coin. However, these machines are quite expensive, which makes them impractical for casual collectors. For anybody that finds one of these rare coins and is wondering where to sell it, or they can get it identified or appraised, one thing you can do is look up your local coin shops in your area and maybe take it in and get an opinion. I wouldn't do this for any coin that you find, but if you find something that you believe is truly a holy grail, then it probably is worth getting a second opinion, because you don't want to accidentally throw something that's worth thousands of dollars back into the wilds of circulation. Beyond the intrigue of this rare minting error, the 1967 Canadian Centennial coins are highly significant in Canadian history. They're created in celebration of Canada's 100th anniversary of Confederation. The government commissioned special designs for each of the denominations, from the penny all the way through to the silver dollar. The eventual designs were the result of an open competition to Canadian artists with the intent of showcasing national pride and the country's natural wildlife. Alex Colville, a renowned artist from Sackville, New Brunswick, was chosen to design all 6 of the 1967 reverse designs. Each design featured a different Canadian animal, which symbolized the natural beauty and strength of our country. The Bobcat, which was featured on the 25-cent coin, is meant to embody agility, independence, and fierceness. The obverse of this coin retains the familiar portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, which was designed by Arnold Mockin. The combination of Alex Colville's wildlife depictions with Arnold Mockin's regal portrait creates a coin that remains beloved by collectors, not just for its beauty, but for its deep historical meaning. Because of the extremely limited number of these 1967 nickel Bobcat quarters in existence, these coins are considered the holy grail for many coin collectors. Even for those who don't possess the nickel version, the 1967 silver Bobcat quarter still remains a fairly decent find due to its connection with Canada and also its silver content. Even if you do happen to find one of these silver 1967 Bobcat quarters in your pocket change, I would still definitely hold on to it because silver coins are generally worth more than their clad counterparts, and you can usually sell them for a couple dollars, and collectors covet these things both for the design and also for their silver content. Whether you find one of these Bobcat quarters coin roll hunting, at a flea market, or in your family coin collection, you're holding a valuable and historic piece of numismatic art, and if you happen to find one with the nickel composition, you are holding a true Canadian Holy Grail coin. Now, before we get into the values for these nickel Bobcat quarters, some of the details and specifications of any of these are off and may indicate that you do not have a legitimate example. First, I'm going to discuss the details and specifications for the regular silver issues of the 1967 Bobcat quarters. The overall mintage for the 1967 Bobcat quarter is 48,855,500, and that includes both the 80% and 50% silver compositions. They will be non-magnetic if they are composed of silver. The silver versions will have a weight of 5.83 grams, a diameter of 23.88 millimeters. The edge will be reeded, they will have a diaxis, and metal alignment as is the standard for most Canadian, British, and Australian coins. The obverse was designed and engraved by Arnold Mockin and the reverse by Alex Colville. Now, the details and specifications for the Holy Grail nickel composition 1967 Bobcat quarter. It is designated with a code DC34. It has a composition of nickel. It should be magnetic. It has a lower weight of 5.07 grams as opposed to the 5.83 grams of the silver version. So that is one of the differentiating factors, is the lower weight. The nickel version should have a diameter of 23.62 millimeters, which is slightly lower than the silver version. Its diaxis will be in metal alignment. The obverse was designed by Arnold Mockin and the reverse by Alex Colville. Now, if you were to find one of the nickel versions of these coins and send it into a grading company, it would be designated with a specimen designation, meaning it will get an SP. Now, because this coin gets an SP designation, it means more than likely it is a pattern or test piece. So when they actually made this coin, they probably only made a few of them, and they were testing out the nickel planchettes because they're going to be implementing them in the next couple years for general circulation. So either the mint made a few of these as a pattern or test, or a few nickel planchettes accidentally slipped into the presses when they were making the 1967 Bobcat quarters. But if you do send one of these in to be graded with the nickel composition, it will get an SP designation. Now, in terms of value, if you find a regular 1967 specimen Bobcat quarter, just to give you guys a comparison, it can be worth around $50 on the high end if you find one that's in incredible condition. Now, if you find one that is composed of nickel, it can be worth around $3,000 for an SP62. If you find one that's pretty beat up and worn, you're probably still going to get at least $500 to $1,000 for it. The fact that there are only a few known examples adds to the value and rarity of this coin, and people will want them even if it's an extremely worn example. Now, on the high end, it can be worth around $7,000 currently for an SP64 example. If you were to find one and it graded any higher, you could see some massive price jumps. You could easily be talking a $15,000 to $20,000 coin. This is one of the rarest Canadian quarters that you can find still in your pocket change. There have been 4 or 5 accounted for, but that doesn't mean that there still aren't a few floating out there. So definitely keep your eyes on your pocket change, or if you are coin roll hunting, because you never know if you are holding a coin that is only worth 25 cents or $25,000. During the Second World War, nickel became a precious metal and a critical resource for Canada's war effort. This led to an innovative shift in the production of Canadian 5-cent coins, as the Royal Canadian Mint sought alternatives to preserve the valuable metal. This resulted in a fascinating chapter in Canadian numismatic history that gave rise to the iconic Tombac and chrome-plated Victory nickels. In 1942, Canadian nickels took on a dramatic transformation. With nickel reserved for military use, the Canadian Mint turned to a brass alloy called Tombac. To distinguish these yellow-tone nickels from the similarly colored 1-cent pieces, they were given a distinctive 12-sided or dodecagonal shape, which was a first in Canadian coinage. At first, the coins retained the traditional reverse beaver design in 1942, but were set to undergo a patriotic makeover in the years that followed. From 1943 to 1945, the reverse design for Canadian nickels was updated to feature a bold V, symbolizing both the coin's value, which is 5 cents in Roman numerals, and also the wartime spirit for victory in World War II. Surrounding this iconic design, the rim beads were replaced with Morse code, which actually spells out the message, "We win when we work willingly." This design was a rallying cry for Canadians, reminding them of their contributions to the Allied war effort. Thomas Shingles, an iconic engraver who joined the Canadian Mint in 1939, meticulously hand-cut the master matrix for this design, marking the first time a Canadian coin was entirely designed, engraved, and struck within the country. The historic matrix is now preserved and on loan to the National Currency Collection at the Bank of Canada in Ottawa. The 1944 Tombac Nickel is one of the rarest and most intriguing coins from this era. While Tombac was predominantly used in the years 1942 and 1943 for Canadian nickels, a small batch of approximately 8,000 coins were produced in 1943 in Tombac, but were accidentally dated 1944. This is according to the Royal Canadian Mint's 1944 report. Of these 8,000 coins, only one example is known to currently exist today. It is certified as a VF35 by PCGS, and this coin sold for $52,000 at Heritage Auctions in 1999. It reappeared briefly in 2018 with an asking price of hundreds of thousands of dollars, but remained unsold. Now, some of the histories and origins of how this rare and legendary nickel came into existence. By 1944, the Mint began experimenting with the chromium-plated steel to further conserve precious materials. These coins featured the same iconic victory design, but had a shiny chrome finish. A small number of 1944 and 1945 nickels were actually not chrome-plated, resulting in a duller appearance, and these are generally much more rare and valuable. While these missing chrome varieties do exist, grading services no longer officially recognize them due to the possibility of chemicals removing the plating. Canadian World War II nickels are more than just currency. They are symbols of Canada's resourcefulness and resilience during a time of global conflict. From their striking designs to their historical significance, these coins remain a favorite among collectors and embody a unique blend of artistry, patriotism, and wartime necessity. The 1944 Canadian Tombac is one of the most elusive and intriguing pieces in Canadian numismatics. With only one known example currently in existence, this coin remains a mystery to collectors and researchers alike. Its origins are surrounded by speculation and mystery, and its rarity makes it a highly coveted piece for those who can appreciate its historical significance. Now, there are two competing theories about how this legendary and unique coin came into existence. According to the Royal Canadian Mint's 1944 report, approximately $400 worth of Tombac 5-cent coins, which is roughly equivalent to 8,000 pieces, were struck in 1943 but accidentally dated 1944. Before these coins could be released into circulation, the Mint decided to switch to steel planchettes with nickel and chromium plating. As a result, nearly all of the 8,000 coins were melted down, leaving only one surviving specimen. This theory suggests that the coin was part of an intended issue that was ultimately scrapped. However, the whereabouts of the other 7,999 coins are currently unknown, and no other authentic examples have surfaced since the Michigan dealer John Abbott purchased his example at a 1982 auction. Another possible theory, which is supported by Canadian numismatic researchers Robert Aaron and Dr. James Haxby, proposes that the 1944 Tombac nickel was never an officially planned issue. Instead, it may have been a mint error that was struck on leftover Tombac planchettes that were mistakenly mixed in with steel planchettes during the production process. This theory aligns with observations of the coin's grade of a VF30, which indicates significant circulation wear. If the coin had been an intentional issue, it would have likely been preserved in mint condition by collectors. Its circulated state suggests that it was released into circulation accidentally, where it was used as ordinary currency, which is actually a really good sign for us because it means that a few more of these could have accidentally escaped into circulation as well. Now, identifying this unique coin involves several key features. The 1944 Tombac nickel shares the same composition as its 1942 and 1943 counterparts. It's made of the distinctive Tombac alloy, which is a brass-like metal and weighs 4.55 grams. These properties distinguish it from the lighter steel-based nickels which were produced later in 1944 and onwards. The coin bears the date of 1944 and will feature the iconic V or victory design with the Roman numeral of 5 in the center of the reverse. Its design is identical to other victory nickels, and it only stands apart due to its unique Tombac composition. This coin will have a yellowish hue, which will be characteristic of Tombac nickels, and it will lack the reflective surface typical of chromium-plated steel nickels. The duller appearance is a distinguishing feature of this coin. With only one example known to exist, the 1944 Tombac nickel is considered the rarest regular issue Canadian coin. Its unique status and mysterious origins have made it a subject of fascination in numismatic circles. The coin was last sold in the year 1999 for $52,000, but could easily command a much higher price today if it were to reappear in the market. Whether it was a planned issue or an accidental mint error, the 1944 Tombac nickel remains a testament to the challenges and ingenuity of the Canadian mint during a time of global conflict. Until another example is discovered, this coin will continue to captivate collectors and stand as a symbol of Canadian numismatic history. Now, some of the details and specifications of any of these are off and may indicate that it is not an authentic example. The mintage figure for the 1944 Tombac is 8,000, but as was mentioned earlier, we do not know how many exactly survived. It is estimated that a good portion of them were melted down or destroyed. It is composed of a Tombac alloy. The coin is non-magnetic. It should have a weight of 4.54 grams, a diameter of 21.3 millimeters. The edge should be 12-sided or dodecagonal. The axis should be in metal alignment, which is the standard for Canadian, British, and Australian coins. The obverse of the coin was designed and engraved by Thomas Humphrey Paget, and the reverse by Thomas Shingles. Now, in terms of this coin's current value, the last time that it sold was in the year 1999. When it sold for $52,000, the coin went up for auction again in the year 2018, and the lister tried to sell it for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it actually did not sell. But currently the price is evaluated somewhere around $88,000, and the only one that is known and accounted for is graded VF35, which is pretty beat up and worn. If you were ever to find one of these and it scored any higher than that, you could easily be talking hundreds of thousands of dollars for this piece. Now, what do you guys think about the Canadian 1944 Tombac nickel? What would you do if you ever found one, or if you ever have found any of the coins that I discussed in this video? Please let me know down in the comments. I would love to know. Also, I would really appreciate if you guys would smash that thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and also ring that bell notification so you can stay up to date with my new content as it is being released. But I think that is pretty much going to do it for this one, folks. So until the next one, everybody, peace out and have a good one, y'all.